Amanda Brooks had never liked silence. After the divorce, it clung to her like humidity, heavy and everywhere. That's why the creaking old house on the edge of Bennington, Vermont, felt oddly comforting. Its wooden floors groaned with every step. Its pipes hissed like whispers. And the wind always found a way to slip between the gaps in the window frames. It was a bargain. A two-bedroom fixer-upper nestled at the end of a pine-lined road, close enough to town for groceries, but far enough to feel like a fresh start. She moved in with her 6-year-old son, Ethan, who seemed oddly excited, despite the house's peeling, wallpaper and perpetual smell of mothballs. "This one's mine," Ethan declared, stepping into the room at the end of the hallway. It was room 17, an old brass number nailed crookedly on the door. Amanda hadn't noticed it before, but she figured it must have been there for years. The room was small, square, and painted a pale blue that had long faded into gray. Dusty toys and a tiny bed frame were left behind, relics of the previous owners. Amanda made a mental note to toss them out later. That night, while unpacking in the living room, she heard Ethan talking in his room. Not unusual, he often mumbled stories to his stuffed animals. But as she walked past his door, she heard a voice, deep, whispering. She paused, knocked lightly. "Ethan?" The voice stopped. "I'm fine, Mommy," came his reply, cheerful and alone. Amanda chalked it up to her imagination and the creaks of an old house. The next morning, over cereal, Ethan casually mentioned, "Mr. Oliver likes my room." Amanda blinked. "Who's Mr. Oliver?" "My friend. He's old, but he says he used to live here. He likes stories." Children had imaginary friends. It wasn't new. When Amanda asked more, Ethan only smiled and said, "He likes to talk at night." When it's quiet? That week, the conversations continued. Sometimes Amanda would tiptoe past Ethan's door late at night and hear hushed tones, one soft and childlike, the other slow and gravelly. When she opened the door, Ethan would always be alone, sitting cross-legged in the middle of the room. Once, she found him staring at the corner of the ceiling, smiling faintly, murmuring, "Tell it again." By the end of the week, Amanda had stopped sleeping well. She kept the baby monitor on, just in case, though Ethan hadn't needed one in years. At exactly 2:30 one morning, she sat upright in bed. The monitor crackled to life. A man's voice whispered, "17 is still mine." Then silence. Amanda ran down the hall, heart pounding. She opened the door to find Ethan asleep, curled under his blanket, breathing steadily. The next morning, the brass 17 plaque was gone from the door. Amanda never touched it, and Ethan never mentioned it missing. The next night, Amanda set the baby monitor to its highest sensitivity and placed it right on her nightstand. She told herself it was silly. Ethan was healthy, safe, and imaginative. But that voice, it hadn't sounded like a child's play. By 10 o'clock, Ethan was asleep. She kissed his forehead, switched off the light, and left his door slightly ajar. Back in her own room, Amanda curled into bed with a book she never managed to read. Her eyes were on the baby monitor, its red signal light glowing steady in the dark. At 2:30, the static shifted. A low, gravelly murmur broke through. Not a word, just ... humming. Amanda sat up straight. The humming grew into faint syllables. "I see you. I see you. Tell me again." Then Ethan's voice, soft but clear, answered. The fire was loud. It hurt. Amanda's skin prickled. She bolted out of bed, nearly tripping over her comforter. She flung Ethan's door open. He was sitting upright in bed, staring at the closet. "Ethan?" she whispered. He looked at her slowly, then smiled sleepily. "Mr. Oliver likes bedtime stories?" Amanda stayed in his room for the rest of the night, curled in a beanbag chair by the wall. The monitor in her room crackled once more before she fell asleep. Not done yet. The next morning, Amanda called in sick to work. Her voice shook on the phone. She lied and said she had the flu, but in truth, she was afraid to leave Ethan alone in that house. Afraid of what might happen at night if she didn't get answers soon. She drove to the Bennington Historical Society, a small brick building tucked behind the town hall. The woman at the front desk, a soft-spoken retiree named Carol, perked up at the mention of the Griggs family. Oh yes, the old Oliver case. Terrible story. Never solved, Carol said, flipping through a cabinet of yellowed files. That house has had more owners than I can count. No one stays for long. Amanda asked what happened to the parents. The mother moved away after a few months. The father, well, some folks said he lost his mind. Claimed the boy was taken by a presence, old folklore stuff. Said the house had rules. Amanda stiffened. What kind of rules? Carol frowned, as if remembering something she wished she hadn't. He said the room at the end of the hall was the key. Said you should never speak to it after dark. That night, Amanda searched every inch of Ethan's room while he played downstairs. She lifted the mattress, checked under the bed, and tapped along the walls. When she removed a loose panel near the closet, a folded piece of paper fluttered out. It was a child's drawing, crude and scratched with heavy pencil marks. A tall figure with blank, white eyes. Beside it, a smaller stick figure holding its hand. Written in shaky letters beneath it, "Me and Oliver." Amanda stared at it for a long time. Later, she found Ethan in the living room, calmly watching cartoons. She sat beside him. "Sweetheart," she said, "can I ask you something?" He nodded. "What does Mr. Oliver say to you at night?" Ethan didn't look away from the screen. "He tells me secrets. About the fire, about his daddy, about the place behind the wall." Amanda's mouth went dry. "What place?" "The hollow part. He says it's where he hides now." That night, Amanda left her door open. She sat in bed with the monitor on again, clutching a flashlight like a weapon. At exactly 2:45, the sound returned. But this time, it wasn't whispering. It was crying. Soft, pitiful sobbing like a lost child. Amanda ran to Ethan's room. He was awake, sitting in the corner, his face pale. "He's sad tonight," Ethan said. Amanda bent down and held him tight. "Why is he sad?" Ethan looked toward the closet. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Because he knows you're trying to send him away." Amanda glanced at the closet. Its door was open. And for the first time, she saw something inside she hadn't noticed before. A small blackened outline like burn marks traced into the wooden floor. Shaped like a door. A door within the closet. A door she had never opened. Amanda didn't sleep. After Ethan nodded off in her arms, she sat by the closet with her back to the wall, watching the blackened outline carved into the floor. It wasn't a trick of the shadows. The charred marks formed a clear rectangle, just wide enough for a child to fit through. She didn't dare touch it that night. By morning, Ethan was different. His eyes looked tired, his face paler than usual. At breakfast, he didn't eat. He just dragged his spoon slowly through a bowl of soggy cereal, whispering under his breath, "What are you saying, sweetheart?" Amanda asked gently. Ethan blinked, as if startled, then looked up with a smile too wide for his face. "Mr. Oliver says you don't like stories anymore." Amanda almost dropped her coffee. Later, while he napped, she returned to the closet with a screwdriver and a crowbar. She pried at the floorboards near the burn marks. The wood was loose, soft in spots. Beneath it, dust, ash, and something metallic. She pulled out a small tin box, rusted and dented. Inside were folded pieces of yellowed paper, a melted toy car, and a charred photo of a boy standing in front of room 17. On the back of the photo, scrawled in a shaky hand, "He still wants company." Amanda stumbled back and dropped the box. That night, Ethan refused to sleep in her bed. "He says he's lonely when I'm not there," he murmured. "He said you can sleep there next." Amanda stared at him. "What do you mean?" Ethan smiled again wrongly, tightly. "He likes your voice. He says your stories are better." That night, she set up a motion-activated camera in the corner of the room, facing Ethan's bed and the closet. At 2:41, she woke up to the sound of laughter. But not Ethan's. She ran to his room. The door was wide open. He stood in the middle of the floor, arms by his side, facing the closet. "Ethan?" He turned slowly. His eyes didn't seem to focus. His mouth moved, but the voice that came out was not his. "She opened the door," the voice rasped. "Now she has to listen." Amanda stepped back in shock. "Ethan, it's me." "It's Mommy." The boy blinked, then collapsed into her arms like a puppet with its strings cut. The next morning, she reviewed the footage. At exactly 2:43, Ethan sat up in bed. His body was stiff, mechanical. The closet door opened slowly, though no one touched it. He walked toward it and stood motionless for almost 2 minutes. Then something inside the closet, something she couldn't see, moved. The shadows inside shifted in unnatural ways. The video cut to static. When the feed returned, Ethan was back in bed. And the door was shut. Amanda closed her laptop with trembling hands. That night she packed a bag. "But Ethan?" Ethan refused to leave. "He's part of me now," he said. "He says you were never supposed to come here." Amanda waited until Ethan fell asleep before she made her move. She had one goal now: destroy whatever connected him to Oliver. The box, the drawings, the burned floor. Whatever curse had crept out from behind that closet door needed to end. By midnight, she had gathered everything: the tin box, the melted toy, the drawings, even the scorched floorboard she had pried up earlier. She took them outside to the fire pit behind the house. With shaking hands, she doused them in lighter fluid and struck a match. The fire hissed to life. As the flames reached higher, Amanda whispered, and quote, "This ends now," and quote. But from behind her, a child's voice spoke. "He's angry." She turned. Ethan stood barefoot in the grass, his eyes half-lidded, his voice unnaturally calm. He said you shouldn't have touched his things. The flames roared higher for a moment, too high, then collapsed inward as if sucked into the ground. Amanda rushed to Ethan, pulling him into her arms. "We're leaving, tonight." But Ethan shook his head slowly. "He won't let you take me. This is his room, not mine." They left anyway. Amanda drove through the night to a motel 2 towns over. Ethan was silent the entire ride, staring out the window, lips moving soundlessly. At dawn, Amanda finally slept. She woke to laughter. Not on the TV, not in the hall. In the room. Ethan sat in the corner, facing the wall, humming an old tune she'd never heard before. Amanda reached for him. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" He didn't move, just whispered, "You brought him with us." Back home a week later, Amanda tried everything prayer. Salt lines, sage, even calling a local priest. But the presence never left. Room 17 was locked now. But every night at 2:43 she heard footsteps inside. Then whispering. Then the crying. Months passed. Ethan grew quieter. He didn't draw anymore. He didn't laugh. Amanda took him to doctors, psychologists, anyone who would listen. They all gave her the same gentle answers: stress, trauma, adjustment. No one listened when she said she still heard 2 voices through the baby monitor. One night, Amanda woke up cold. The monitor was dead silent. She ran to Ethan's room. He was gone. The window was wide open. On the wall, written in the soot she'd tried so hard to clean, were the words, "I told you he's mine." She found Ethan an hour later, curled in the closet, smiling in his sleep. And when he opened his eyes, they were not his eyes anymore.